you said especially on the east side, the housing crash, you know, hit that side of the city more than it did the west side, and it's reflected in Cuyahoga County's recent numbers. There was a big difference between those two sides of the city. Homes on the west side saw a 5% decline. I'm sorry, yes. Homes on the west side saw a 5% decline, and homes on the east side remained unchanged. So what do you attribute the difference to? Mr. Russell, we'll start with you.
Well, I personally live on the west side of South Euclid in the Bluestone neighborhood. My house was built in 1929, so we have somewhat older housing stock on the west side. So there are some challenges there. Obviously, older homes take additional funds to repair their houses. I got to paint my house soon, so I know all too well how that's going to play out. So it's has to do with the housing stock that's in the area. And then I think the other part I want to talk to you about is the idea of community development. We talked about things like market value and things like that, but the community aspect of it is what is a part of value as well. And over the last couple months, door knocking, there's definitely a distinction between different neighborhoods. And I live in Bluestone. We have a really great neighborhood group. We have two neighborhood groups actually that work together, and that helps establish value. We have two community parks that you mentioned earlier, but that's not existent in every neighborhood. If we can have a group of family members who are very well connected throughout the neighborhood, that are watching and helping out each other, helping raise kids, talking to the renters like you talked about, that helps establish value. That makes it a desirable neighborhood that you want to live in. And we should work, I'm not saying it's always the city's responsibility to do that, but we should work to help cultivate those relationships in neighborhoods throughout the city so there isn't necessarily a divide where there's east versus west side of the city.
Okay, Mr. Galfian?
Yeah, one of the things that I've done since I've been on council is to help organize some neighborhood groups. And we did that in the Cedar Center neighborhood. We're doing that on Lancaster. One of the things we learned about the farthest northern reaches of South Euclid is that's where some of the drug transactions are. And what, you know, people, there's a heroin epidemic out there, and people are looking to the city to buy their drugs. People from like Lorain County and Cuyahoga County don't want to go into Cleveland, so they'll connect with someone in South Euclid. And Lancaster Road, for instance, is one of those roads that's on the border of Cleveland. So they'll go, well, I'll meet you in South Euclid. And people who live on Lancaster, you know, when they call the police when they see something like this happening, the police can't possibly get there because it happens so fast. So one of the things that when I discovered that, that this was a fact, that the drug sales were happening in that neighborhood, and when I talked to people on Lancaster, they wanted to form a group, and so we're in the process of organizing that now. And like Jason said, when people come together, they can better handle situations. If everyone's an island by themselves, they can't tackle these problems, but when they organize into neighborhood groups, they can. And as far as the, well, I'll come back to it. See,
I just want to ask you one follow-up question. So would you say you attribute the difference between the east and the west side to the proximity to Cleveland? The west side is a little bit closer to Cleveland. I mean, you mentioned that with the drug transactions.
Well, I'm actually thinking of the north side of South
Okay.
Euclid is adjacent to Cleveland. But I mean, we're an inner ring suburb, and we have all the problems that inner ring suburbs have. But our crime is down. When you read the Sun Messenger blotter, most of the crime that happens is over at the Walmart. People are shoplifting there, or the Giant Eagle on Mayfield Road. I mean, yeah, we have crime. I'm not going to discount that, but we have, you know, because we have a full safety force. When 911 is called, the police are there, or the fire is there, and even when you call the non-emergency number, the police show up quickly because we have the force that we need, and we have that because we fought the state.
We can get to that at the end of the discussion. Sorry, I just wanted to ask you one follow-up related to the difference between the east and the west side. So, Mr. Reynolds, why don't you tell me, what do you attribute the difference between the east and the west side?
I would say primarily it would be renters. There's a number of rental properties on the west side, and that many times does not necessarily hold value. Not to say it should affect it, but it does. That may be a reason why maybe from an appraisal standpoint, the value may not be as high because it's not a necessary homeowner in that building or that property as opposed to a renter. I would say again that the west side is where it went down. And again, it's a lot of apartments over there, and that may be part of it.
Okay. Mr. Fiorelli, what do you attribute the difference to?
Well, I'm not surprised if there's a difference. I'm not sure if the methodology is 100% reliable, but some of the differences is from a zoning perspective. You know, the zoning communities are different there. You know, the lot sizes are different. You tend to have more bungalow type homes, and I think in a recovery, I think the bigger homes, the bigger lot sizes are stronger and more attractive. So I think they're recovering much better. So I guess the answer, it's a zoning that there tends to be more bungalows, you know, especially between Warrensville Center and Belvoir. So that's the style of housing.